Warning, the following video contains heavy spoilers for Avengers Endgames and some mature language.
Hello everybody, welcome back to podcast. We haven't figured out a name.
We haven't even done this before. Well,
we did
the Pokemon
one. We're making podcasts. So, we just saw Avengers, and before we say anything, all I'm going to say is...
Heavy spoilers.
No, heavy spoilers, but holy shit, go see it. That's what I'm going to say.
I'm gonna say this.
And then come back, after you've gone see it, come back and watch this. Because this is us talking about the movie, and the spoilers start now.
I'm not a huge fan of Avengers. Or Marvel, for that matter. But that was, holy shit, that was...
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, like, it started off a little slow, to be honest with you.
Really?
I thought it was a little slow when it started off.
I thought it was pretty damn good.
I would say the first half of the movie didn't feel as good as Infinity War did, in my opinion.
Well, what do you mean by feel good?
Like... It at the very beginning, like the first 10 minutes or so felt really rushed to me. And then like the next maybe half hour, 45 minutes felt kind of like maybe dragged out a little bit.
Well, here's the problem.
And then it picked right...
Well, here's the problem. Like, they had to set where everyone was.
Yeah.
They had to tell you, like, well, it's after the snap, clearly. And then they're like, oh, people disappear and people are, sad and shit. And then 5 years later, which I did not expect.
So we didn't get that far yet. First off, holy shit! It just kind of shows like a
it's
week later.
mind-blowing.
What was it like? It was like a week later, and then it was like a couple months later.
No, it wasn't.
When it first started, it was like...
Was it?
It was like right after the snap when it first started. Now it showed...
I guess.
It kind of started off with Tony like in space and like being sad and thinking he was gonna die, and then Captain Marvel shows up out of nowhere.
That was great. And
just pushes him back to Earth. And on one hand, cool, that was a cool way for them to bring her into the group and get Tony back. But on the other hand, it felt kind of like a cop-out, I guess. I think
kind of like they shoved her in there real quick to show
like
that she was there.
Like they took this big thing that they hyped in the trailer, and I thought that was going to be a big chunk of the movie was him trying to get back to Earth, and then they just gave him like a magic go back to Earth thing.
Honestly, I thought that was all right. Her finding them and bringing him back to Earth so the story could progress. Now, I'm more annoyed at the other thing in the movie. The thing that's I feel like is gonna piss a lot of people off, which is the Back to the Future time machine that they...
Well, I was just gonna say that they killed Thanos, and it was super anticlimactic, and we were like 10 to 15 minutes in, and I'm like, oh, well, that didn't feel like 3 hours, so let's go home.
Basically.
It was good. I mean, we got to see it.
They didn't even just kill him. They cut off his arm.
Yeah.
And then they said, where's the stones? Where is it? And he's just like, I destroyed him. And Thor just came in and he's like, well, he's dead because I cut off his head now. But you also feel really bad for him because just like everyone else, Thanos took away a lot of people. Took away his brother, took away half his people. And they don't know at that point that they're going to get any of them back.
In fact, at that point, they're pretty much just hopeless and they don't think anything's going to happen. And then they do a 5-year skip, which, holy shit, I don't think any of us were...
We were expecting a skip, like, maybe 2 weeks later or something, but 5 whole years...
Yeah.
After this happens, they're still looking out for, is there any hints of something going on? Is there anything? Can we find anything at all? And there's just nothing.
Yeah. I mean, they kind of confirmed they used almost every single one of the fan theories.
Basically.
Ant-Man came in and saved the day with his quantum bullshit.
Yeah, but not in the way we wanted.
Yeah.
Not in the way that was,
Disney was not going to do that.
No, but also,
it would have been funny. It would have been funny if they made like a nod to it, like him making the joke. But I think that the memes came out after they had finished filming it anyways.
Yeah, probably. But still kind of disappointing. They filmed
both movies back to back.
Yeah.
So...
They did. But they basically, finished Infinity War and jumped right into Endgame.
Yeah,
so they could get it
up
and going. Which is another thing why I feel like you think it feels very slow or something. Because they're still, as I said, they're trying to build up a story. They're trying to really put everything into place. And you gotta remember, this movie is 3 hours.
Give or take, yeah.
It was a good 3 hours.
I think it's 3 hours and 8 minutes, but the one we watched we went to the fan event, so we had the extra 5 minutes. And until I see it another time, I won't be able to tell you what the extra 5 minutes was.
They better add whatever they added into the fan event, into a DVD.
Well, I'm sure there'll be a director's
I hope
cut
so.
thing.
I hope so, because the movie we just saw, in my opinion, was perfect the way it was.
Yeah.
I don't feel like any of those scenes should have really been cut out.
No, I agree. I'm trying to figure out what the extra 5 minutes was. I don't think we'll know until we...
But now I feel like it's ruined for me.
Because there's 5 minutes... I don't know. I mean,
because the way it was, I don't want to see it unless it was that version, to be honest. Because I feel like I'm just missing...
Well, it's kind of like the Batman
like
versus Superman thing. It's like they released an extended version with like an extra half hour or something. And to me, like, there was no point in watching the regular version.
Exactly. Because everything you wanted and everything you needed was in that version that shouldn't have been cut. But then again, like, for commercial purposes, 3 hours is a long-ass time. Especially for people who want to bring their kids to the theater. We were lucky. We didn't see that many kids, but there was a couple.
There was kids, but they were towards the front, and they were...
There was, like, at least one child.
That's actually
but other
why I
than
like
that,
going...
it was all adults and one dickhead who had their phone on.
Yeah, that guy. And the first time is we get it, but the second time it goes off the same guy with the same ringtone. Like, if your phone goes off in the theater, we understand sometimes you forget, but turn the ringtone off at that point.
Nah. The thing is that it was silent for the whole movie. Everyone was a good little student in school. And then, like, the last 10 to 20 minutes...
Yeah.
And
it went off twice. Who does that?
A jerk who thinks the movie's over so he gets to turn his phone on. But anyway, back to this masterpiece.
Yeah.
Like,
I was gonna say that's why I go to this theater, is because even when they...
We went to the movie tavern in...
Don't say it. We went to the movie tavern. We're not going to tell you where it is. But I like to go here because usually when there are kids here, they're, in my experience anyways, they've all been pretty well behaved, at least at the premiere showing. I haven't had any real issues with kids.
Oh, really? Not here.
Not here.
It's also a very expensive venue. So if you take your kids here to kick and scream...
Well, this one actually, the movie tavern is about normal with other places. It's actually a little cheaper than a lot of other places in the area.
Yeah.
Like that big mall over there, their tickets are like $15 a piece, whereas these ones are like $13.
Yeah. It's still a pretty good service.
So it's not bad. It's just that the food is expensive, but also, like, they actually bring you real food, and they have service throughout the movie. You don't have to get up to get your refill.
Also, at this fan event, there was free popcorn, and they gave us very pretty little coins. They're probably approximately the size of Thanos' asshole, and we'll post pictures of that in the video. But anyway, back to Endgame.
Not the coin, not Thanos' asshole.
I mean, it's just as purple.
Jesus Christ.
Talk about a grimace. So back to Endgame, because we need to stay on topic, because this is a long movie, and there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, wow. I'm glad they did the 5-year skip, honestly. I'm really glad because it allowed them to set up some stuff that we wouldn't have seen otherwise, I think.
I feel like it shakes you. You see that, and then you see where everyone is.
Yeah.
And then you see the state of the world.
Yeah.
It's just, there's lights gone everywhere. There's a lot of things. It looks like a zombie apocalypse kind of situation. There's cars on the side of the road, just destroyed, dilapidated. It's empty. It's silent. There's no one. And the people who are there, they're just there.
Yeah,
there's missing
there
posters everywhere. No one really knows what's going on.
They're trying to, like, get their lives back together. And then, of course, Cap makes the joke that the water looks bluer and there's whales in the Hudson River.
Because everything's cleaner, because half the population is gone.
Yeah.
And honestly, Thanos was right, kind of right there. But, you know.
I don't know. I'm not going to get into that argument.
Anyway, so 5 years later, they're looking for any sign that anything can happen. And they get a ring at the door. Someone rings the doorbell.
Well,
and it's the hero of the story, Ant-Man.
Okay, well, let's back up a little bit, because Ant-Man, as you know, if you watched Ant-Man, the post-credits for Ant-Man 2, he went into the quantum realm, and then...
The snap happened.
Wasp and old guy disappear, and Hank, that's his name. They disappear, and he's stuck in the f***ing quantum zone for 5 years. He's stuck for that whole 5 years. He's in there. And then the truck that they're using is in like an impound garage, and a rat just happens to walk over the right button to pull him back out. What is that?
Well, as you remember, Doctor Strange said he saw some odd million, like, occurrences, like, of how this would play out, and only one was gonna work. And this just happened to be the one. That one rat happened to flip that one switch, and he was able to come back. Which, by the way, he was gone for 5 years. But in his time, it was, how long?
5 hours,
minutes?
they said.
5 seconds?
hours.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
which kind of makes
but
sense.
that's basically that gives us the whole thing in the movie. But we got to see Professor Hulk, which was really cool.
That was amazing.
We got to see just a whole bunch of stuff that we wanted to see.
We got to see Fat Thor.
Yeah,
Professor Hulk.
My costume was actually pretty realistic for this movie.
On point, but you shaved your beard, so I got to
Well, I didn't know that he had a beard because I avoided everything. And actually, if you watch the trailer where they're walking through the thing, it shows him with his head from Infinity War.
Yeah, I bet they did that on purpose. Yeah.
So we had no idea. I am glad that we got to see like Thor with the long hair again and a full beard, and like he's in like this drunken state where he doesn't even want to do anything anymore, and he's got like
he's living with the bug and his stone buddy.
Yeah.
And they're playing Fortnite.
Yeah, and like he's got the beer belly because that's all he does is he sits there and drinks, and he's got this huge beer belly. And it just, to me, it made me feel like I was better in costume, honestly. I'm a little annoyed because I would have gone as like, I would have put the old wig on and done it a little differently, and I would have left my beard long, and I would have just worn like a hoodie.
Shit happens.
If I had known, but now that I know, the next time I go, I can do that version of Thor.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, because I'm not wearing...
You're gonna get hot
as much as I loved wearing that costume. And I do this every time. Every time I go to like one of these big ones, like Avengers 1, Avengers 2, Thor Ragnarok.
To one of these big boys.
To one of these events that I'm really excited about, I make a costume and I wear the costume to the event, and for whatever reason, every time I forget how hot it gets underneath all that foam, and I'm a puddle by the time I walk out. I've probably lost 5 pounds in sweat.
Because for some reason, these places, and it's every movie theater I've ever been to, they think that people don't generate heat. So this place didn't turn the air conditioner on, but they didn't turn the heat on. So there's like over 100 people in this. I mean, it's generally a big room, but there's still like at least 100 people are in it.
I think it was closer to like 50 to 60.
I don't know.
But yeah, the point is like...
It was hot.
We're in April, and we're at that awkward phase where sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's warm.
It's currently
so
like
companies
50
have
out
their
right now.
Like automatic stuff set to like 70, somewhere between 70 and 75. And what people don't realize is that when it's 68 degrees outside, the inside does not need to be set at 75.
It's too hot, especially with all those people in one place.
There's 100 people. You should have put the air conditioning on.
That would have been nice. Even a little bit. Because there was hot food coming in.
Yeah.
There's people everywhere. We're cheering our asses off for every second of this movie.
Well, that's why I love going to these very first ones. Because when they're the big Avengers ones, everybody does that.
Yeah.
The very first showing. Everybody's stuff happens. People are clapping. They're cheering.
But honestly, though, like...
The big thing happened, and there's some girl, like, crying her eyes out down in the front row.
Half of the people in that theater were crying. Just desperately crying. And I do not blame them.
No. So let's get into like the real spoilery shit. So we started talking about all the fan theories that we saw that were really cool. So Ant-Man came in, they did quantum realm, they did time travel, they did differently than we thought it was going to do, but they did the time travel.
They memed a lot.
They did meme a lot. They did Professor Hulk. They went back in time, right? And they all went to...
So this is jumping forward. This is jumping forward way into the movie.
Way forward. So Thanos destroyed the gems. They killed Thanos. They go back. 5 years later, Ant-Man comes back and he's like, guys, I think we can time travel and fix all this shit.
First of all, he's like, listen, the stones don't exist now, but they did exist.
Yeah.
So we're going to make a DeLorean. We're going to go back in time and we're going to grab the stones.
Basically.
And then they need Stark's help. Because like, Professor Hulk's smart, but he's not level. He's not Tony Stark level.
He is. He's brilliant, but he's not
quantum mechanics.
He's not into quantum mechanics.
Yeah.
It's just they're in different fields.
Fair enough. So they go to him.
So they go to Stark, and Stark's like,
he's got a f***ing kid.
He's got a daughter. She's got to be like 3 or 4 at this point.
At least, yeah.
And he's like, guys, I have a family, and I'm happy. We're living in the middle of nowhere, and it's peaceful, and it's great. I don't want to screw that up. And then they leave, and he's thinking about it for a minute.
It's later at night. He's thinking about it. He's
and then
he's toying around with it, and then he solves the problem of quantum theory.
He didn't want to do it, and then he sees a picture of Peter, and he's like, oh right,
my boy.
I lost
I have
a son.
to go back for my boy.
So that's his whole thing, is he does this to bring Peter back, which is, I mean, that's why I would have done it if Spider-Man was alive. I would have done it. Spider-Man.
Oh, poor Peter.
So, oh my God. So they go to like, they make a bunch of different teams. They go to like different points.
It's 3 teams.
3 teams, and they go to
about I think it's like 3 or 4 people. I think it's
I don't
4
know. It
people. It's like
depends
it's
on where
4
they're going.
people. It's 3 teams of about 4 people. They all go to several times. There's 6 stones. I think 2 of them are in space, 1 of them's in Asgard, and the other ones they just happen to be in New
They're
York.
just all in New York. So they go back and they relive some of these moments, which I think for the big final movie of this set was brilliant. They went back to the Battle of New York from the first Avengers, and we saw like behind the scenes stuff that we didn't get to see in that movie, where like Cap and Tony are like sneaking around trying to get the Tesseract and
then
the glow stick of destiny.
Captain America gets into the elevator with Hydra shield.
Yeah, the guys from Cap 2,
and
the exact unit.
They're gonna go after him. They're gonna attack him because they know he's up to something. He leans into the leader's ear. He's like, "Hail Hydra," which was great because it brings back ideas of Captain America as a Nazi, which was in the comic
like, for a little while, and
which I thought was
weird.
Unbelievable.
It was kind of like mind control, not mind control. I don't know. I didn't read it. It's all I know is it was bullshit. But point is that was so cool. And then he had to fight himself.
That was pretty cool.
And then like
I can go all day. I know.
It was so cool. And then like
they screw it up.
And they lose the Tesseract, and Loki like jumps out of time.
Loki takes the Tesseract. And
just teleports, which
basically everything goes well until you see the scene of I can't remember the dude's name who works with Tony with the other Iron Man suit. War Machine? It was War Machine and Nebula, and they're going for the Soul Stone? No, not the Soul Stone. The
Power Stone.
The Power Stone.
Yeah, the Power Stone. They go to where Guardians 1 starts off with Peter doing his dance.
It brings us to where computers suck. So Nebula is mostly computer because she sucks. And because of that, it interferes with her past self's memory, and Thanos is able to tap into that.
Well, yeah,
which is a huge issue.
The way they explained it is that her memory is linked to like a server, but because there's 2 of them in the same timeline, they're linked to the same server. So the server was kind of picking up both of their memories, and it was kind of screwing with the system.
And because they had access to past Nebula, they were able to figure out where everyone was going to be, what everyone was doing.
Yeah, which leads to the rest of the plot. But yeah, so we'll fast forward to
God, there's so much stuff that happened. Where do you want to
We're
fast
gonna
forward
skip over a little bit. Cap and Tony up and they lose the Tesseract, so they go back to a different spot where they can get the Tesseract and see Hank Pym and get more particles, so they can go back to where
they stole particles from Hank.
So they go back to the future.
Captain America sees his girlfriend
Peggy. Yeah.
Tony meets his dad.
He basically meets his dad and like gives him father advice, kind of,
which is pretty cool.
Which is interesting. And then they go back to everything is good except Hawkeye and Black Widow. They go after the Soul Stone. And if you remember what happened
should have thought about before they went.
Well, they didn't really know. They just knew where it was.
Yeah,
nobody really told them what
happened.
What the plan was. Like Nebula just didn't mention that.
Oops.
So they go to get the Soul Stone, and the Red Skull's there, which neither of them picked up on was the Red Skull, by the way. And the Red Skull's just like, you have to sacrifice one of you because I'm a douche, and that's how the stone works.
I mean, it makes sense. It's the Soul Stone, a soul for the Soul Stone. But they fight over it.
Yeah, they fight over who's going to get
They both want to sacrifice themselves, and it's Black Widow who ends up
falling to her death, and she's permadead. She's just gone.
Because, as the Red Skull said, it cannot be undone. Whether or not you have all the stones, you cannot bring them back.
But they got the Soul Stone, and Hawkeye comes back, and they're all like really sad, and they kind of have like a little send-off for him, and Hulk's really upset because he had a huge thing for her.
Everyone has a huge thing for her.
Yeah, she's okay. So yeah, they get all the stones back and they put them into like an Iron Man gauntlet, which is awesome because that was another fan theory, was the Iron Man gauntlet with the stones in it.
Well, everyone thought, like, first of all, they're probably gonna make another gauntlet.
Yeah.
But it's an Iron Man gauntlet. And if you remember the end of the movie, it's kind of foreshadowing.
Well, if you remember
No.
We're not gonna jump to the end yet.
I just said it's foreshadowing.
Okay.
So they make the gauntlet, and it's this tiny dinky little glove that can fit Tony Stark, but they're discussing who can wear this safely, who can handle this power. And Professor Hulk steps forward. He's like, well, this is mostly gamma radiation. I'll take one for the team.
Yeah.
And he puts the shit on.
Yeah.
And this dinky little glove expands.
Well, yeah, because it's nanites.
It fits his
That's
giant...
all Tony uses now is nanites, so that makes sense.
He uses his giant fister to
Well, then
snap everyone.
Yeah, and he snaps everyone back, and it like wrecks his whole right arm.
The right half of his body. Like he's burned up to his neck.
Just like how we saw Thanos to begin with.
So we get to that point, he snaps. Everything seems fine. Hawkeye's wife calls him.
Yeah.
Everything seems okay.
So we know that they're back is because Hawkeye's wife calls.
They look up at the sun, and here he comes, the Burger Boy himself.
Well, yeah,
because
Nebula brought him back in time. That's why. Because the evil Nebula from before time
wanted to prove her loyalty to her daddy.
So she switched places with the current Nebula, and she goes to the present, and then she brings him back while they're doing whatever they're doing with this. Yeah, she brings him to the future, and he like gets in his giant space troop, and he's like, oh, you guys, I'm Thanos, and he shoots it with a bunch of rockets and blows it to shit.
Would you rather go forward in time and kill 5 birds with 1 stone, or would you rather jump around the galaxy for a couple years?
True. They didn't give him enough,
looking for 1 stone at a time.
Plus, they only had 1 particle.
And they pre-made the glove for him.
Yeah.
So I mean, might as well.
Yeah, pretty much. And then the next really big part that happened is like they're recovering from it, and I think it's Hawkeye that has the glove, or I guess Ronin at this point is what he's called. Whatever, Hawkeye. He's got the glove and he's like running from the alien dudes, and then like Thor, Tony, and Cap just stand there like looking at Thanos.
Well, first of all, you gotta say this. Thanos blows the shit out of the Avengers building.
Yeah.
Everyone's trapped. They eventually get out. Oh, did you?
Yeah.
But he gets the glove.
No, we're not even close to that yet.
Yeah, you are.
We're at the part where the 3 of them are just standing there looking at him.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And so the 3 of them fight him right off the bat, and they're doing okay, but they're also kind of getting their ass kicked, probably because Thor, instead of lifting weights, started lifting beers. But
but it's also Thanos.
But at this point, Thor has his hammer, he has Mjolnir, and he has the axe, because he picked up the hammer when he went back in time to get the Aether.
Oh yeah, Thor saw his mom.
Yeah, Thor has a whole scene with his mom, which is touching and stuff. And honestly, I thought that was probably, to me, that hit harder than some of the other scenes that happened in the movie, personally.
Yeah, because she knew that he was future Thor.
Yeah.
And she's like, listen,
they had a chat.
You gotta do what you wanna do. So just like get out of here.
Anyway, so Thor's got both the hammer and Stormbreaker, and he's like fighting Thanos, and then they're all kind of getting their ass kicked. Tony's knocked out, Cap's knocked back, and Thor's got like Thanos is on top of him, and he's about to push the Stormbreaker into his chest, just like how he did to Thanos in the last movie.
And then you see Mjolnir on the ground.
You see Mjolnir move, and it flies over.
You think it's going to Thor, but it hits Captain America.
You jumped over it. It hits Thanos out of the way, and then you see it in midair for a second, and you're like, oh, Thor just called the other hammer. But no, Cap catches it, and Thor's like, I knew it. And if Cap has one of the best out of the whole movie.
Nuts in that theater.
Oh my
God.
God.
Tony picked up that hammer.
Not Tony.
Cap. Captain America, Steve, yeah.
And it was crazy, and that was one of the best fight scenes I've seen out of this entire goddamn
amazing
universe.
Like, there was a lot of predictions for this movie. That was not one of them that was expected.
Well, no, it wasn't, but everybody thought that he'd pick it up at some point, but
in that way, that's pretty
that was
damn
so
great.
Cool. And then
then Thanos, knocks him over the head, and they're like, they look pretty defeated.
And then Thanos is like, well, you, and he brings down his army, and he's like, I'm gonna make this personal and ruin the earth and blah blah blah.
He pretty much said, you humans are stubborn little shits. I'm tired of you. I'm not going to have your population. I'm gonna destroy every single thing in this universe until it's down to an atom, and then I'm going to basically make the Big Bang again.
Yeah, he wanted to remake everything more balanced,
because that wouldn't give anything their own will to do whatever.
Yeah, and he's got his whole army there, and it looks like they're about to get their ass kicked, and then portals just start opening all over the place, and everybody that disappeared comes back, well, except for Gamora and what's her face, Scarlett Johansson.
She was back.
No, Scarlet Witch is back. Black Widow was dead.
Black Widow is permadead.
Gamora from the past is here.
The past is there, but future Gamora is permadead.
Is still dead.
Loki is permadead.
Yeah, Loki doesn't come back. We thought he would, though I do think there's something fishy about him disappearing with the Tesseract at the end of Avengers, but I don't know if that's even gonna happen.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I think that's just normal Loki. I think that was something to really get Thor to go back to see his mom.
Well, no, that was the setup. There was to get Tony and Cap to go back in time and see their people.
I don't know.
I don't know.
But we're not. I don't think we're gonna see him anymore.
I don't know. I mean, they're doing a whole series with him, but I don't think he'll be in the movies.
But anyway, so portals are opening. There's a whole. There's a whole ass army out there.
There's a whole army of Avengers that come out.
Thanos is kind of looking around like, this is maybe a problem.
And there were so many good scenes in that army. I didn't even remember all of them, but it was so good.
So they're kicking the shit out of one another. Thanos is like, all right, Scarlet Witch is kicking the shit out of me.
My God, she almost killed him. If he hadn't,
he calls on his, one of his commanders or something. He says, blow this shit up. And they say, but our troops. And he's like, I don't care. Just blow it to hell.
And then the big ship just starts shooting down shit. But if he hadn't done that, Scarlet Witch would have ripped him to pieces.
And she wanted to.
She was about to, yeah.
But then, for some reason, the ship stops shooting and aims up. And everyone's like, what is it aiming at? And you just see this ball of light just coming, like, faster and faster. And you know it's her. It's your girl.
My God.
It's Captain Marvel.
And she just blows the shit out of his ship. And
Completely.
Thanos is like... At that point, he's like,
well, this wasn't part of the plan.
Okay, that happened. And then, they're fighting over the gauntlet because it's just rolling around, and he does eventually get it on at one point, and then she comes
Captain
in and
Marvel
she basically
starts fighting him.
Stops him.
Punches her straight in the head, and she looks at him like he just threw a piece of paper at her, and she is pissed, and she destroys his weapon. And I honestly say they could have made her a little stronger and beat a little more of the hell out of him.
I mean, I get it. Her whole point right there was to try to get him off of the gems.
But it's Captain Marvel.
But and then he cheats and he pulls the power gem out of the gauntlet.
Pulls it into his other
and then
hand
just shoots her with it.
Punches her in the face.
Well, he basically fires it at her.
It's
and
basically
flies
the
her
same
away.
thing.
And then Doctor Strange looks at Tony and he holds up this finger, just signaling that this is the one time.
This is it. This is the one chance to make this all better.
And Tony goes up
realizes
and he grabs the gauntlet, which is an Iron Man gauntlet, and he essentially just switches them. So Thanos goes to snap his fingers again, and he realizes he's just holding an Iron Man gauntlet with no gems.
He basically swiped all the stones super quick, which I thought was really cool.
Well, I was trying to figure out how he did that, but then I remembered that both of his current suit and the gauntlet that he has are nanites, so he probably just switched the nanites.
And it's great, because Thanos is there like, you lost. Ding! Nothing. And he looks over at Tony, and Tony is there in his Iron Man suit, and the stones are connecting to his glove. And he's like, I am Iron Man. And then he snaps, and there's nothing for a minute. And then you see all of his armies, everything that came to Earth,
Thanos is just
turn into dust. And Thanos is just like, shit. And he sits his ass down and he disappears. And they're just like, ooh, yes. We win.
We win. And then Tony dead.
Oh my God. It was he's dead.
Yeah, and then Tony's just dead. It was too much for him. His body couldn't sustain all of the gems and he dies right there.
And it's not just like a death.
Pepper is there. Luckily, Pepper and Peter and Rhodey, then the three of them are there.
Pepper's in an Iron Man suit too, by the way.
We got to see Rescue.
Oh, is that
yeah, that's what it's called. Is Pepper's got Rescue Bot or some shit like that.
But it's great.
It's really cool. And they even had a bigger suit for Rhodey, a new War Machine suit for him.
That was great. But Tony's death, it's not just a death. He's there. He's just burned just to shit. And he's frail. He's tired. And he's just there. And Pepper's like, we're gonna be okay. We're all gonna be okay. And then he just lets go. And Peter, he's like, Mr. Stark, we're gonna be okay. We won, Mr. Stark, Mr. Stark. And I'm like, oh no, Peter.
Oh, that was sad. So.
Oh, your second Uncle Ben is gone.
So, and that was the whole thing, is we all knew one of the Avengers was going to die. We did not expect two of them to die.
I heard it was going to be Rocket, and I'm glad it wasn't.
Well, there was a lot of
bullshit
going around, so...
Well, it wasn't just one of the Avengers.
It was two.
So we're at the end of the movie.
So basically the whole thing is that in order to keep the timeline the way it is, they needed to go back and put the stones and everything back in place to where they were.
And they only figured that out when Professor Hulk went back to get the time stone.
From the ancient one.
From the original ancient one. And she was basically saying, listen, I can't give this to you. Because if you take it from our timeline, it'll create another timeline where our timeline is just wrecked. And he says, listen, I will bring this stone back. And we have to do this because Doctor Strange gave the stone to Thanos.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? are you sure? He's like, yeah, he gave it to him. And she's like, all right, take it.
Yeah, at that point, she's like, there's got to be a reason that he did that.
He was meant to do this. So they gotta send all the stones back. And they say, all right, here, Cap, take your new fancy hammer, take these stones, and put everything back. And he was supposed to be gone 5 seconds.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's not back. Where the hell is he? He blew past his timeline where he was supposed to be. And someone calls out. Like, I think it was
Bucky.
Yeah.
Bucky says, hey, Sam, look. And
there's some dude on the bench.
There's just an old guy sitting on the
War
bench.
Machine walks over to the dude and it is Captain.
It's not War Machine, it's Falcon.
Is it now?
Yeah,
it's Falcon,
Falcon.
Sorry. So he's sitting on the
Cap,
bench.
and he's old Cap. He like in the comics during that series where he was the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's like old Cap, and he's like, yeah, I'm done. Here's my shield.
Well, he basically said, Tony said I should
get a life.
Yeah, so I'm going to try that. So he basically went back and spent his life the way he wanted to spend it, which was with the woman he loved, with Margaret. And he's like old, and he's like, here, Falcon, pick up my shield.
And he gives the shield, which is cool because that lets us know that Falcon is going to be the new Cap, which is cool because that's what it is in the comics. Bucky did have it for a little while, but I think I like this route better.
I like Falcon as Captain America. And you know that Bucky's done. He's old, he's tired.
Bucky's tired too. I don't think he's done.
Not Bucky,
Cap. Cap is done.
I'm sorry. There was so much shit in that movie. I'm just in a fog. Like there was so much that happened.
There's so much
and it was
cool
incredible.
Thing, and I feel like I'm forgetting something, but
we're forgetting a lot of things.
I'm sure there's other stuff. There's no after credit scene. We probably should have put that in the beginning of the movie. You're done. Which
was really surprising.
There was a Stan Lee cameo. This is apparently his last cameo.
Oh god, everyone cheered for that too, and so did I. Oh, and then Thor joins the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep, Thor.
He calls them the Asgardians of the Galaxy.
Basically, he goes off with the Guardians and then he leaves Asgard to Valkyrie, and he basically says, "You're their king now, or queen, or whatever."
See ya, bitch. I'm going off to
space. He doesn't want to be king. He wants to follow his own path and just
which is what his mother said. She said to
what to
do what made him who he was.
Yeah.
And so he went to space with the rabbit and.
And they did make a new Asgard on Earth as well, in
It's
Norway.
just a little fishing town.
Which is also really cool. I'm glad they did that.
Because Asgard is not a place, it is a people.
Well, yeah, but also in the comics, they had an Asgard that was on Earth. It was called New Asgard.
That's really cool. All of this was really cool. Honestly, bottom line, go see this shit.
It's called Asgardia. Well, at this point, if you've listened to all this 30 to 40 minutes of our bullshit, first off, why did you listen to this and not see the movie first? Because we just spoiled most of the movie for you?
Honestly,
secondly,
to me, it doesn't matter. Like, go see this shit.
Secondly,
this is great.
Go see it anyways. It is a good movie. It is worth seeing.
I suggest, although a lot of people are just going to say, screw it, I'm going to go see it. And I'm not telling you not to, but I do suggest you wait. Don't buy the version that's going to come out on DVD. Wait for the one that has all the scenes.
Well, here's the thing is,
because I really feel like that is the one that's truly complete.
Like we were saying, we went to the fan event, which was, there was supposed to be an extra 5 minutes of scenes. They didn't tell us what those scenes were. We just watched the movie. So somewhere in the movie, they cut out 5 minutes worth of content and gave it to us in the fan event. And until I go see it a second time where it's not a fan event, where it doesn't have that, I won't know what those extra 5 minutes were.
Then again, sitting there in the movie theater, feeling all that shit, like, you ain't gonna know what those 5 minutes are.
No,
you're gonna leave the theater like,
and I agree that I don't think anything in any of those scenes should have been cut out at all.
No.
But I'm very curious to know
movie.
what the extra 5 minutes were.
Oh, absolutely.
And I will be looking it up later. But I think it's still worth going to see. I don't think that the 5 minutes that we got extra are gonna make or break the movie. If that makes sense, I do think it's worth going to see.
It depends on what those scenes are.
That's true. I have a feeling that the first minute or so that you have with Hawkeye with his kids, maybe. But also that felt like a big plot point of the movie.
I think it was absolutely a big plot point. Because you see, later in the movie, you find out that he's been going around the world killing mafia bosses and stuff like that because he's angry that they survived the snap. But that only comes about when you learn that when the snap happened, his wife and his kids both disappeared.
Yeah.
Which made him who he was. So I am curious about those 5 minutes, but I'm also like, oh God.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not a huge Marvel fan.
We'll see what those 5 minutes are.
I am not a huge Marvel fan. Like, one of the like, I loved Ragnarok, and that was about it. This shit was...
You liked, you did like Infinity War.
I mean, yeah, I did like Infinity War, but this topped Infinity War by, like, a lot. This topped Ragnarok for me.
I think Ragnarok's still my favorite.
Oh, of course it is, because it's Thor.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good part of it. But this did... It's hard to say, because as someone who's the Thor fan that I am, I liked Thor in this new movie, but he didn't feel as strong as he was at the end of Infinity War.
You also got to remember that he went through a lot.
He did. He went through a lot.
I mean, everyone else did too, but it's part of Thor, his being.
Yeah.
Like, he lost all this, and he feels like he's responsible. And when they finally got to Thanos, he just beheaded him, and that was it. And there was nothing else he could do.
Yeah.
And he just felt helpless.
It was one of those things where they show, like, you know, they always say, like, revenge isn't worth it because it's just gonna leave you empty, and you're not gonna get back what you lost. And I think that
it was still pretty satisfying.
That home. Like, yeah.
To see Stormbreakers and just cut through Thanos' neck like butter.
I mean, yeah, it was satisfying, and I think for that specific moment, Thor was like, yes, I did it. But as you saw, he went into a drunken mess afterwards.
Yeah, it's a slow realization for him that there's no bringing those people back.
I'm still really happy that we saw, like, fat Thor.
That was great.
It was great. It was, because we've always ever seen Thor, like, built and chiseled, but
he was straight up just drunk Fortnite Thor.
Just to see him, well, I don't think he was playing. I think it was just Kronk that was playing, but
I think they were all playing it.
I don't know. Point is that I was really happy to see him in a state that wasn't just this chiseled,
overpowered god.
Yeah. But I also love him as an overpowered god, so it's a toss-up.
You got to see him in a vulnerable point, which made him a lot more human.
Yeah. I guess I would say this slightly is better for me than Infinity War.
To me, it's by far. Like, Infinity War was good, but this was... Okay, the only issue I got with this is the whole time machine bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, I was expecting... Because the thing it got for me was, Thanos said he destroyed the Infinity Stones down to an atomic level. They got Ant-Man. Ant-Man can go atomic. And I was thinking, well, what's he gonna do with that? Is he gonna pick up a particle of the Infinity Stones and bring himself back up to normal size with one of them? Making them, like, normal? Or...
I had a feeling that it was gonna be time travel, but I thought that they were gonna get the time stone and use that to reverse time.
Yeah, instead they just got all of them.
I don't know.
I guess it makes sense.
I mean, I did like the way they did it.
I just
wasn't expecting it to be exactly that. And I think that's the best part, is that, yes, just about every fan theory was in this, but at the same time, it was done in a way that I don't think any of us were fully expecting.
Definitely.
I would be very surprised to find somebody that said, oh yeah, I predicted that whole movie. And at that point, I think they're probably lying.
Oh, probably.
But we've been rambling for almost an hour, so we're gonna cut this.
We got soda to buy. We got Yu-Gi-Oh cards to look at.
I still have to pee. I haven't peed in 4 hours.
That's a record for you.
That's a big deal. So I don't know what the next podcast will be, but we will see you then. Bye, everybody.
Bye now.
Go see Endgame.
You better watch this movie.
Okay, goodbye.